Since Bambi departed from his life, Scrappy has been in decline, according to people close to the rapper. According to reports, he has made a sad attempt at suicide. Reports of a devastating plea for help have shocked the business, and relatives are hurrying. Scrappy has reached his breaking point after all the sorrow, betrayals, and endless upheaval. It appears that he has descended into despair. Friends are phoning Scrappy in a panic, leaving fans to wonder how this happened, if this is truly his last moment, and most importantly, if Bambi will intervene before it's too late. We're going to reveal something you won't believe, so listen carefully. Scrappy was renowned for his ability to conquer challenges, but this time, something was different. In the end, the weight of his betrayal, loneliness, and despair overcame him, and the pain seemed unbearable. Individuals who are currently connected to the rapper. Let's face it, he might have done the unimaginable. It all began when his sweetheart, Bambi, went. Although their relationship had been a flurry of arguments and makeup, this time it felt definitive, and Scrappy wasn't handling the breakup well. His friends noted that his once humorous demeanor had changed to one of cryptic utterances hinting at his severe mental illness. According to reports, Scrappy told a significant other, "I just don't know how to move forward." When he posted a series of Instagram stories following a late-night conversation, each one darker than the one before, fans started to suspect that something was wrong. The post that caught everyone's attention was a black screen with the words, "What's the point of it all?" written in white. His followers quickly flooded his direct message service with supportive messages, telling him to keep going. But they were unaware that things were much worse than they had expected, and Scrappy's closest friends and family knew he wasn't. His longtime friend, who wished to remain anonymous, explained how they knew something was very wrong. "I went to check on him, and man, I didn't recognize him. His house was a mess, bottles everywhere, blinds shut tight. For weeks he had been acting strangely, skipping crucial meetings, and even ignoring some of his best friends." However, the most concerning sign was that he began drinking excessively, something he had previously promised never to do again. "I don't think I can do this any longer. Bro, I'm tired." His mother, Mama D, was one of the first to publicly admit that something was seriously wrong, asking fans to pray. "Yo, I need y'all to lift my baby up," she begged. "I just want this pain to stop, scare me." I tried to help him change his perspective, but I could see in his eyes that he wasn't okay. And then came the night that changed everything. We were shouting his name, Bing, on the door because we had no idea what else to do, but it was just silent. Scrappy apparently locked himself in his house one quiet evening and refused to answer the phone or text. His closest friends realized something was seriously wrong and drove to his house, beating on the door until he let them in. But after what seemed like forever, one of them decided to call for help. I swear, I thought my heart was going to burst inside those walls. When paramedics and authorities finally entered, they discovered everything that left everyone in shock. Scrappy was unconscious, with his body limp on the floor, pills all over him, and a bottle of liquor overturned on the table. Medics started working to stabilize him right away, while his friends stood there with frozen tears in their eyes. One of them later acknowledged that we kept calling his name in the hopes that he would open. When the news broke, social media was ablaze with worried fans sending love and support messages, hoping that this wasn't Scrappy's end. Although friends close to Scrappy revealed that he had been spiraling for weeks, no one had realized just how far gone he was. The real question was still whether Scrappy would survive, and if he did, would this be the wake-up call he needed? The source stated that he was drowning in his thoughts every day, and that he would talk about how he felt inadequate, and that no matter what we told him, it was like his mind was already made up. The doctors tried their best to stabilize him, but the situation was dire, and it was a race against time, and those moments felt like an eternity to his loved ones. Mama D was seen looking distressed as she arrived at the hospital, pleading with the medical staff for updates on her son's condition today if you want to stay up to date on all the latest drama. Fans are still worried about the situation, and social media is a flurry of prayers and support for Scrappy. What do you think? Will Scrappy find the strength to move forward, Or is there still hope for him and Bambi to reunite? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Bambi received the news, and according to sources, she was devastated despite their history with Rocky. She had never wanted this for Scrappy, but she was in complete shock, and an insider revealed that she might not have been with him anymore. But that didn't mean she stopped caring. She felt guilty, thinking perhaps if she had handled things differently, he wouldn't have gotten to this point. Fans were thoroughly shaken, and social media was flooded with messages of concern, accompanied by hashtags like #. One well-known rapper tweeted, "We got to check in on our people praying for Scrappy right now." As everyone waited for updates inside the hospital, they made it clear that the next few hours were crucial. If Scrappy survived, he would have a long road to recovery ahead of him, but if he didn't, the world would be saying goodbye. Prayer for Scrappy is trending nationwide, and some celebrities have even taken to their platforms to show their support and sadness. Mental health is real, y'all. Scrappy lay in the hospital bed, his body weak, his mind hazy with pain and regret, the room eerily quiet, save for the steady beep of the monitors, and that child was holding on tight, as if fearing that letting go would mean losing him forever. Every minute felt like a lifetime in the waiting room, and friends, family, and fans were holding their breath, hoping that Scrappy would wake up or that this was the end. His mother, Mama D, was sitting by his bedside, holding his hand. While she whispered words of consolation, she knew that this battle was far from over. Outside the hospital, the world had exploded in chaos, and fans, celebrities, and fellow artists took to social media to flood the internet with messages of support, concern, and speculation. One post read, "We love you, Scrappy. Stay strong." Another was more accusatory, asking where Bambi was when he most needed her. Seeing her son in such a vulnerable state had broken her heart, and she had been praying constantly. Began with fingers pointing everywhere, Bambi herself caught in the storm, reporters chasing her, and her phone buzzing nonstop with messages and calls, people wanting to know if she had spoken to Scrappy before the incident and if she knew how much he was going through. But Bambi refused to be dragged into the chaos, and she was secretly struggling with her own feelings. Yil asked her if she had pushed him too far or if she had been too cold in their last conversation. He saw the laughter, the arguments, the love that had once burned so brightly but was now reduced to ashes. Mama D's worried face, Diamond's worried expression when she found him, the paramedics rushing to save him, and then darkness, a deep abyss that threatened to swallow him whole. Hours turned into days, and finally Scrappy started to regain his strength. But the emotional scars were far more severe than the physical ones, so a therapist was brought in to encourage him to talk about them. His eyes were glassy with unshed tears, and he resisted answering the questions quickly with fake laughter and hollow assurances that he was a good man going through a difficult time. Scrappy continued, adding, "But Mama D was no fool. She had seen her son's lowest point and knew that pretending wouldn't help him. Instead, she encouraged him to let it all out. It seems that I'm just going through the motions all the time." As the days went by, more people came to see him, including his close friends, colleagues in the industry, and even people he hadn't spoken to in years. "We need you to hear Scrappy, you matter. It hurts, baby, but you have to find a way to live for yourself, not for Bambi, not for anyone else, just for you." This message hovered in the air, heavy with truth, and even though Scrappy knew she was right, something in her voice gave him a glimmer of hope, a tiny flicker of light in the darkness. When he heard Bambi's scratchy voice, he inhaled deeply before responding, "Scrappy, I never wanted this for you. Why does it feel like you did?" he asked. His remarks were the result of years of wounded love and desire. As their eyes locked and Bambi's face became inscrutable, the room grew quiet when she finally made it to the hospital. They stared at one another, Scrappy's heart hammering in his chest. With his hand clenched, Scrappy's feelings were a jumbled mix of grief, rage, and want. "How come you left me then? How would you have let me go if you knew I couldn't survive without you?" Looking down, Bambi groaned because love shouldn't be poisonous. I had no idea how to resolve the hurt that Scrappy and I were causing each other. Her voice faltered as she turned away, fighting back tears, and said, "Thought we were doing what was best for us both, but I never meant for you to feel like this. Scrappy, you don't get to give up. I don't know what will happen next, but I do know one thing. This isn't how you get to go. They love you. They needed you." The air between them was thick with unspoken words, unresolved discussions, and a past that was too complex to sort out in a single evening. Bambi at last extended her hand and delicately touched his fingers. With a sharp swallow and his eyes clouded by the pain, Scrappy knew in his heart that she was correct. Their love had been intense but damaging for a long time. She cried, and Bambi gave him a gentle grip on the hand, saying, "You need to allow yourself time to recover." After she got up to go, Scrappy experienced a change in himself. It could have been acceptance or closure, or it could have been the start of a new chapter where he learned to live for himself, even if it meant learning how to do it without her. The door closed behind her, and Scrappy drew a big breath. She felt lighter than usual, not quite fine yet, but for the first time, she could move on her own. The incessant buzzing of his phone with messages from fans, family, and friends left him sitting in his dark room with the crushing weight of his emotions. Nobody could comprehend the emptiness that had engulfed him after Bambi departed. The once vivacious Scrappy, who was renowned for his charisma and vitality, now looking blankly at the walls as he drowned in memories of the love he had lost. All the calls Mama D had made had been unsuccessful. Fans started to imagine that friends were contacting everyone Scrappy had been close to after he shared a mysterious message on social media. All his life, he had been a warrior, taking on obstacles head-on. But this time was different. He didn't know how to win. His heart shattered at the idea of Bambi going on and spending her life without him. Sick with depression, Scrappy called Bambi in the middle of the night and said, "I don't know how to do this without you." Bambi, despite her sympathy, remained firm and said, "Scrappy, we can't keep doing this. I must find my serenity, and you must find yours." The call ended, and Scrappy sat with his phone, hands shaking, feeling beyond repair. His voice trembled as he spoke honestly and unfiltered, his heart pounding in his chest. After receiving a series of alarming texts, Scrappy's close friend and fellow rapper Diamond arrived at his house the following morning. What she discovered sent shivers down her spine. Scrappy was barely conscious, his face pale, his body weak, empty bottles scattered across the floor, a haunting testament to his despair. Diamond, in a panic, called 911 right away, her hands shaking as she pleaded for help, and paramedics arrived minutes later, rushing Scrappy to seek treatment at the hospital. Inside the hospital room, Scrappy lay unconscious, with a machine that was monitoring his vitals beeping steadily. Mama D refused to leave his side, keeping her hands clasped together and whispering, "Lord, don't take my baby." She was crying because she was deeply hurt to see her son in such a vulnerable state. Fans took to social media to post messages of support and hope for the music industry on timelines, and even his ex-boyfriends came forward to express their love and concern. Doctors fought for hours to keep him stable, and the tension in the air was choking everyone as they waited for an update or a sign that Scrappy would recover. Finally, there was movement, a slow blink, a faint whisper, and the room was filled with relief, but the fight was far from over. Scrappy's road to recovery would be long and difficult, and the pain of losing Bambi still loomed over him like a dark cloud. But maybe, in that moment, surrounded by love and support, a glimmer of hope appeared. Mama D sat beside him, holding his hand tightly, her eyes full of relief and concern. "Baby, you scared me to death," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Scrappy lay in his hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind a jumble of emotions. The weight of what had just happened set in, the near-death experience that had shaken not only him but everyone who loved him. His body felt weak and drained from the trauma, but the pain in his chest had nothing to do with the physical. Rather, it was his heart shattering beyond recognition. Emotional response: "What were you thinking, Scrappy?" "I wasn't thinking, Mama. I just felt like I had nothing left. Scrappy had been trying to move on and rebuild himself after losing Bambi for months, but no matter how hard he tried, the void remained. There was a void he couldn't seem to fill. You have so much to live for. Look around you, your family, friends, and fans all love you. You can't let this break you. Why are you here? The hospital room opened, and to his surprise, Bambi entered. Her eyes were sad, but she looked uncertain, almost nervous. Scrappy heard what had happened, and for a moment neither of them spoke. The tension was heavy, with years of love and pain hanging between them like an unspoken weight. Scrappy swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. Bambi moaned and moved closer because, in spite of everything, I still care about you. I don't want to see you like this. Scrappy laughed bitterly. As her face softened, Bambi put her hand on Scrappy's. We were poisonous to one another and were hurting one another, so I couldn't live that way any longer, so I left, not because I didn't love you anymore. However, that does not mean that I want you to have this. With his eyes closed, Scrappy heard what she had to say. In his weakest moment, Mama D cleared her throat, but he wanted to lash out at her and push her away because he knew deep down that she was right and that they had been through so much together that their personal issues had caused them to drift apart. After a little pause, Bambi nodded and continued, I can't promise anything, but I can be here as a friend. Scrappy may not have wanted it, but perhaps he needed the chance to start over, not just for Bambi, but for himself as well. For the first time in a long time, Scrappy felt hopeful because he knew that he was not alone, despite the uncertainty, pain, and recuperation that lay ahead. Whether Scrappy will actually be able to start a new chapter in his life is one of the important questions raised by today's heartbreaking story. Can he survive without Bambi, or will he always be tormented by this? There are a lot of prayers and supportive messages for him on social media, and the whole issue still worries supporters. What do you think? May Scrappy be able to move on, or is there any chance he and Bambi may reunite? Share your thoughts by leaving a comment below. Stay up to speed on all the latest drama by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so you don't miss a story.